Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Steve Rogers again, and today's video, you know what? I can't do it, guys. It's not Steve Rogers, it's Brandon. I know you're probably surprised because of this high quality mask and costume I'm wearing that is basically the same thing as what Captain America wore in Winter Soldier, but it is Brandon. I'm here in my basement today, and I want to talk to you about the Captain America Barbell Shield Plates from Onnit, which is part of their Marvel Superhero Elite line, which also includes things like the Iron Man kettlebell and the Spider-Man battle ropes. So these plates themselves, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, some pros and some cons, but overall, depending on what you're into, these are definitely a luxury item because for most people, especially those training at home, weights aren't that important. And I've heard that echoed a lot of times when I talk about my competition plates. A lot of people say that they're too expensive. You don't need that. You can get regular steel plates on Craigslist, whatever. I get that. So this is a luxury item for most of us. But that being said, the luxury can definitely be felt and seen, but mostly felt when you're talking about these Captain America barbell shield plates. Because let's be honest, if you see these in a picture, in a video, in a gym, in person, everyone is automatically drawn to them and thinks they are awesome. Because they are. They look awesome, they feel awesome, they have exceptional build quality, they're pretty badass plates. In fact, many people on the internet have taken to making their own versions of this with spray paint, and they look good, but not this good. And I'm really trying to emphasize the point here. They look and feel really, really good. And that's one of the biggest pros about them. But again, they are just weights and they're not going to necessarily give you any more gains, maybe some followers, but any more gains than your normal steel plates that you could find probably anywhere else. Now, there are some pros, there are some cons. That's what I want to talk about in this particular video. And for this, I spent some time benching, squatting, and deadlifting with them. So I'll give you my feedback based off of that. Now, first of all, the plates in general, they are urethane plates. So there's a couple of things with that. Urethane seems to be all the rage these days, and it's well warranted because it's a very high quality material and it provides little to no bounce, which is very huge if you're doing lifts where you're dropping the weight over and over and over again. It'll hold up well to impact, not to mention it's not going to bounce all over the place. So that's one of the biggest pros about these. Unfortunately, depending on why you're watching this video, I'm not going to give you much feedback based off of that on these particular plates, only because I don't lift like that. I lift for powerlifting, as I mentioned. I don't drop the weights, but urethane has enough behind it where you can know what you're getting, and it is a very high quality material. With urethane too, one of the other things that you'll note is it's pretty pricey, so I'll post the prices on this eventually, maybe just flash it on the screen. Most of you will think that's pretty pricey, and again, it's a luxury item, but when you compare it to other offerings in the urethane market, it's in line with them, but this one can offer some benefits over what else you see out there. And there's also some cons, which I hope to cover in this particular video. Last thing about urethane that you should know is it is very slippery. It almost feels like it has like a little bit of grease on it, especially these plates because there's nowhere to really dig your fingers in like a lip of a plate like you might see with some of the deep dish York or Avanco plates of the past. These ones are fairly slippery and they've remained fairly slippery, but maybe that can help you improve your grip strength. So let's get to the other pros of it. Number one, with these plates, I mentioned the benefits of urethane. You get that already. It has a steel center, which is nice as well. These plates are built to last for sure. Another really big pro about these, when you take a look at other plates that you drop overhead or use for Olympic lifting, is that these are probably the thinnest plates you will find that are urethane and are meant to be dropped. Now, even when you compare to other urethane manufacturers out there, like those from Rogue or Titan or American Barbell, you get thinner plates than you would some of the other bumper plates you see out there, but these particular ones are the thinnest that I've seen. In fact, when you take a look at a 45-pound plate from the Barbell Shield line, it's almost the same thickness as my 20 kg or 44-pound plate of my competition steel plates behind me. So that's very impressive in my mind. That way you can fit a lot more weight on the bar. Although for the most part, depending again on what you're lifting, for a lot of people doing Olympic lifting, unless you're super good at it, like I threw that super in when we're talking about superhero stuff, you're not going to be doing a ton of weight overhead, so that might not really matter because you could probably fit enough bumpers on there and never run out of real estate. But if you're doing things like deadlifts or squats, then it could start to be more of a problem with your traditional bumpers, especially if you're using like composite type bumpers. So these are very thin, very huge selling point in my opinion. And other than that, just the fact that they look badass are probably its biggest selling point. Again, it's just a weight at the end of the day. Now, when it comes to cons, there's just a few things I want to call out. And again, it depends on what you're looking for. So for these particular plates, I mentioned that they're extremely thin, which in my opinion is a very big benefit, but almost too thin to a fault. Because they're so thin, what actually ended up happening is these plates ended up being a little bit larger diameter overall. So when you compare these side by side to, let's say, my 25 kg plates or the 20 kg plates I mentioned earlier, they're a couple millimeters bigger all around. This can really have a negative impact, in my opinion, if you're doing things like deadlifting, where traditionally you want all the weights and the pressure on those weights dispersed evenly. It would not be the case with these particular weights. Or if you're using a mixed set of weights, like using these with your other normal steel plates, these are going to stick out a little bit. So depending on how much OCD you have, that may potentially be an issue as well. Speaking of size, because size is most important to a lot of people, taking a look at the center diameter hole, that's also a little bit loose for my liking. Traditionally, on a lot of the higher end plates, you actually have less room to play with that diameter. So if you take a look at the steel competition plates, in some instances, it's very hard to get it on the bar or even a storage plate. So that's something you typically see on these higher end plates. With the Onnit plates, it's actually bigger than a normal center hole diameter, which in turn leads to the plates being pretty loose on the bar, especially if you're doing things overhead or you're dropping them with things like deadlift. Over a couple of reps and sets, what you'll find are the plates start to get pretty loose, and I just don't like that because you have to readjust, and I would like to see them fix that issue. So if they could fix something on this, what I would like to see is shrink the overall diameter of the plate down to a more standard size. That might add a few millimeters on the thickness, but I'm fine with that because I think these are super thin as is always. And then finally shrink down that center hole a little bit and get a little bit tighter fit, and I think they really have something that can't be beat on the market. Now, coming to price, as I mentioned before, these things are pretty pricey, but that's the case with all urethane plates. You're not going to find very cheap urethane, and you shouldn't, because again, right now it's very in vogue, if you will, not to mention very high quality. It should last you a long time as compared to regular bumpers or your cheap steel plates you might find local or secondhand or at Walmart. So again, these are a luxury item, but that being said, they are very nice, so you get a lot out of it. It's just a matter or a question if you're willing to give in to some of the cons. For me particularly though, one of the biggest cons with these plates is just the fact that they only offer them in 45, 35 and 25 pound variants. So a lot of times now I'm really into the heavier plates. So in this case, my 25 kg or 55 pound plates, I think it makes more sense to buy more of those if possible and skimp down on the 45 some. Some people question, do you need 35s at all if you have a 25 and a 10? In this case, you don't have the options of buying any 10 pound plates, 5 pound plates, 2.5 pound plates, or any other fractional plates beneath that, at least that are branded with the Captain America barbell shield. And I think I get why they did that. Probably didn't make sense from a standpoint of how thin they'd have to make the plate to keep the diameters the same. It probably just wasn't worth it monetarily to do that. It could be very flexible, almost like a record in some cases, like a literal vinyl record looked like if you're talking about 5 pound plates or 2.5 pound plates. So I get why they did that, but it's just kind of a bummer if you're spending all this money to get a set of plates, but you have to mix and match it regardless because you don't have any other options. But overall, I think they are solid plates. If you buy them, I don't think you'll be dissatisfied with them. They look pretty badass and gives you a chance, or me a chance, to wear these sweet, sweet outfits. So hopefully that answers all your questions. If you have more about it, leave it in the comment section below. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big. We good? Okay, look, guys, doing a hell of a job here on the budget and the costumes, but I feel like I'm wearing pajamas. The mask makes me look cross-eyed, and let's be honest, the Wolverine one had at least muscles built in. This is pretty lacking. I mean, Civil War? Could we even get like Age of Ultron or Infinity War?
I don't remember you talking so much when you were getting your ass injected with super soldier serum, pretty boy.
Shit.